We have the ASRock Z890 Taichi board, and yeah, I'm going to pair it up with Intel Core Ultra 7 270K Plus. Now, this processor is, well, there wasn't any specific launch or anything. It was more like a paper launch, I would say. And in that sense, we didn't get any big announcements like we did for the 285K that I reviewed. And now we're talking about something quite cool, because this should have had the same launch as the 285K. So what we have right here is basically Arrow Lake refresh. We're having 270K Plus, which is 8 P-cores, 16 E-cores and 24 threads. Base clock at 3.7 GHz and the max turbo clock is up to 5.5 GHz. Cache is 76 megabytes total, and we have base power at 125 watts, with average at maximum power goes up to 250 watts. But that's not all, because apart from the synthetic and gaming benchmarks that I will deep dive into this and compare it to 285K, we're gonna talk a bit about this Taichi board, because let's be honest, it's a really cool board when you take into consideration their flagship models and what price are you paying for this board specifically. So what we're going to do is, well, first and foremost, the visual aspect, which goes into the same segment as any Taichi board regarding the cogs and everything all together. Of course, we had those prior boards that looked a bit more impressive than this one, but honestly, I won't complain on this. So we have, listen to this, 20 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 power phase design. 20 V-Core, 110A SPS, 1 VCC GT and 2 VCC SA. We have 6 M.2 sockets, one is blazing M.2 and the other 5 are hyper M.2. And listen to this, you have a bundled M.2 expansion card, which means it comes in a box, and this is all Gen 4 times 1. You have dual Thunderbolt 4 Type-C port. You have memory OC shield, which absorbs EMI noise, enhancing memory overclocking potential, performance and stability and stuff like that, right? We have 802.11b Wi-Fi 7, 20K caps with 100 microfarads capacitance, 5G land, and for the I/O overview, I'm gonna quickly go through this one. We have 2 antenna ports, HDMI, USB 3.2 generation 1 Type A, 2 of those. Then we have those 2 Thunderbolt 4 Type-C ports. We have BIOS flashback and clear SMOS. Then we have 2.5 G LAN and 5G LAN. We have 2 additional USB 3.2 generation 1 Type A and 2 USB 3.2 generation 2 Type A. This board covers it all. So going and discussing this processor in terms of synthetic benchmarks, and I said I'm going to compare it to 285K just to give you an idea. So starting off with AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, CPU goes up to 78 degrees. This could vary a bit because I didn't use the same cooler, so 78 to 74, but the same clock speed, 5400 megahertz. Now when we go with AIDA AES, what you get is higher speed for the 270K Plus, which is outstanding, so 255.5 gigabytes per second. AIDA cache and memory. Now I use Kingston Fury Renegade RGB DDR5 2x32 at 8000 megahertz. In this scenario with this board, read speeds go up to 123.49 gigabytes per second compared to 114.5. Then we have write speeds 102.06 gigabytes per second, comparing it to 97.3. Copy is 107.82 compared to 102.04. And the latency is definitely drastical, 74.4 nanoseconds compared to 89.3. This is outstanding basically because same RAMs, just different board, but the performance is there. Now, Cinebench R23, on average what we have with 270K Plus is 77.4 thermals in 10 runs on average, 5400 clock speed. We have 42,362. Now listen to this, thermals on 285K, 77.6, 5280 clock speed, with Cinebench score 41,476. So it beats 285K. Corona 1.3, 39 seconds to finish the render with 270K Plus, and 285K, 45 seconds. Then we go with Corona 10. The difference is in 1.3 million rays per second, which is outstanding, going towards the 270K plus. And then we go with Indigo benchmark. Bedroom is 3.331 million samples per second compared to 3.341. Nothing drastical here. And the same thing goes for the supercar. As you can see, those are just minor differences. I wouldn't mention this as a win for 285K, but still it is a bit of an advantage. Geekbench 6, the 285K goes lower in single and multi-thread score. So yeah, it is the same thing as in the past benchmark. For the Indigo, it's just slight differences. Then we move forward with Jetstream 2. We have quite a lot of difference. So 60,000 points difference, and that is outstanding, going towards the 270K plus. Now in 3D Mark, we're going with TimeSpy and Firestrike. TimeSpy for the overall score goes up by 6,000 points, and TimeSpy for the CPU goes up by 4,000, almost 3,400 points. Firestrike in general, we're having 6,000 points of difference. Firestrike Physics, we're having 3,000 points difference. And then we move forward. Firestrike Extreme, we're having 7,000 points difference, and Firestrike Ultra is another 5,000 difference. So it's quite interesting actually to see all of these benchmarks and to compare it. Now, what I wanted to check out is PC Mark 10. Now, PC Mark 10 goes with essentials. You have application startup, video conferencing, web browsing, and then you go with productivity, spreadsheets, writing, and digital content creation with photo editing, video editing, and rendering and visualization. So with overall score, the 270K plus goes up by almost 3,000 points. It doesn't outscore 285K in essentials because we're having 700 points less. In productivity, you get 6,000 points more, and specifically it goes better with the writing part. But then in digital content creation, it just totally destroys 285K with 9,000 points of difference. Let's be precise, 8.5. And you see that in photo editing, video editing almost by a double, render and visualization by 6,000 points, and photo editing by almost 9,000 points, which is outstanding. I'm looking at these synthetic benchmarks, it just blows away 285K. Not in all scenarios, as you saw, some benchmarks are really close and it's quite obvious, okay? They are going with Ultra 7, comparing it to Ultra 9, which is just, wow, honestly. It is something quite interesting. But then moving forward with gaming benchmarks. Now, of course, I don't use regular games, and the only newer game that is released and is in my benchmarks is Cyberpunk 2077, but we have loads of others as well. So moving forward with gaming benchmarks. PUBG, we're having average, minimum, and maximum FPS. PUBG goes average at 105 for the 270K plus, while the 285K goes at 98. Then we go with Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Average for the 270K plus is 124.6, comparing it to 285K, which is 136.3. Hogwarts Legacy, average 270K plus 91, 285K 83. Spider-Man Miles Morales, average is 17 compared to 14. Witcher is 56 compared to 49. And then we go with Cyberpunk 2077. Average is 89.87 compared to 79.50. Just to give you an idea, everything was done in 4K, since my past benchmarks were done in 4K or 2160p, and ultra details, no multi-frame generation, because I really wanted to skip that and just give raw performance just to see how that goes. And to be honest, in some games 285K goes upwards. It's, as I said, I don't have much games in this scenario because I really wanted to go with synthetic benchmarks as well, just to give that comparison altogether. But synthetic benchmarks, it's a total win for 270K plus, even though with those two benchmarks they cross each other somewhat. And then when we go with gaming, you have a straight win for the 285K in one scenario, and then in majority 270K plus really does nice. Average thermals for the 270K plus in gaming, in that scenario and everything that I mentioned, is around 54, so I wouldn't say that is drastical. Maximum base power was at 215, somewhere on average to 15 to 20, but I would say that's pretty cool. And then when you take into consideration that the price, MSRP of course, is $299, and what I noticed in Europe you can find it from, I think, let's put it on average 370 euros, because I saw 350, 400, 420 even in some scenarios, but still, comparing it to some other processors that really go up high with the price, depending of course on the range, is it mid-tier, low-tier, high-tier or whatever, but in general I'm quite satisfied. And I think even this motherboard did the job as well, because 285K was tested on MSI Z890 Carbon Wi-Fi, and then we have the Z890 Taichi, so you get the comparison with the motherboards. And yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Quite solid price, I would say, quite solid price without a doubt. And let's not forget, the motherboard did its trick. The VRM is definitely here to back up everything that this processor is doing and pulling all the power. And pairing it up with 5080 was definitely a good idea. I mean, I could run a 5070 Ti just to grab that comparison, but I don't have the comparison of 285K with 5070 Ti. So that'll be all for today, guys. If you're trying to go back on Intel for any reason, and specifically with these benchmarks and these thermals in gaming, I think the synthetic benchmarks was going, when we take into consideration Cinebench was 77, so in those rendering videos or photos or whatever, you're expecting above 70 degrees, which is again still somewhat alright. In general, that was it for today, guys. Hope you liked the video, and I'm just gonna ask that regular question: are you thinking of going back to Intel if you were on Intel and then you switched to AMD, and then now's a chance to go back to Intel, or you're sticking with AMD? Or just give me an idea, give me your thoughts about the whole current situation with red and blue team, how it goes. This was an accident wearing a red shirt. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching today's video. The links are in the description for both of these products, Z890 Taichi from ASRock and Intel Core Ultra 7 270K plus. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.